Hi and welcome to Ectogamut's channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make a portrait in the style of A Scanner Darkly. If you've never seen that movie, I'd recommend seeing it, if not just for the look and feel of it. It was a stunning look, and I've been doing them for a while, and I figured I would show you how to do it. I have done one here of Megan Fox, and the nice thing about the Scanner Darkly look and feel is that it gets a very distinctive look, and you can zoom in pretty close to it and it still looks great. You could blow this up to a poster size or any size you wanted and it would still look great. So let's jump in. I'm going to go ahead and create a new RGB document. It's going to be a regular page size. And I happen to have a picture ready already. It is of my sister-in-law, Chelsea. And so we just drag and drop it into our workspace. If you're on a PC, you're going to have to go up to your File menu and Place. You're going to have to place your picture to get it where you want it. So, we've got Chelsea's picture in here. I'm going to go ahead and resize it by grabbing the white boxes on the edges. And we're going to get it in place. And as soon as you have it placed the way you want it, you will want to pull up your Layers menu, which looks like this button right here. Whoops. And you will want to lock that layer. If you do not, the picture will move around and everything will be all messed up. As soon as you lock the layer, you're going to have to go down to the bottom right and create a new layer so you can start drawing on top of it. Now, the first thing I do is I construct a brush that is going to be our Scanner Darkly look. The Scanner Darkly look has very nicely tapered edges. If you're lazy and you don't want to create your own brush, you can click on the brushes on the right hand side and choose this one right here, the tapered stroke. However, it does not get the kind of rounded off edges that I particularly like, so I'm going to construct my own brush, and that is done by doing the pen tool, and you want to make it look like a football, strangely enough. So what you want to do is click and drag at like a 45-degree angle and then go directly across and click and drag at another 45-degree angle. If you want to hold down the shift key, you can, and you want to get it as footballish as possible, and then you'll hold down the Option key and click and drag at another 45-degree angle on the second point. And again, until you get a nice football. Again, you're holding down Option to make sure these are sharp points. Now that I have my football, we need to make sure that it is filled with black. So I want to go down and swap the fill and stroke so that it's black with a white stroke, and then click this little red slash to make sure there is no stroke. Our brush can have no stroke, and it should look like this once you're done. You want to make sure it's as tapered an edge as possible. Nice and football-y. We'll then select it, and we are going to create a brush out of that. So we go over to our brushes button here, and in the top right of that new palette is this strange little guy. We're going to make a new brush. This new brush is going to be a new art brush, and that's important. It's got to be an art brush. Alright, now this is where you have to kind of futz around with it. It's the width that you're worried about. I usually put about 20%. Well, we may have to change this. And make sure that you choose a tints for the coloration method. And that's important because with girls you need to line their lips with the lip color and not the black color. Even though we have chosen black, the key color is going to be black so that it will change and we can sample that. Anyway, we'll get to that. Say OK. Alright, we should end up with a stroke that looks much like this. We can now delete our football, and next we choose the brush tool, and we're going to experiment with this to make sure that it works with our drawing. Now, this is where a Wacom tablet comes in handy. If you've got one, this is where you want to use it. I created the football using the mouse. It's just a lot more precise. And what you'll want to do is just stroke the top eye and see how the thickness agrees with you. I think that's too thick. It's not too bad, but it's just a little too thick. So what you want to do is you'll go back to the brush palette here and double click it, and I'm going to make the width about 10%, and you will always apply to strokes so we can see if that's going to work for us. And then we zoom in and see how the result is. It's not bad. Not bad. That's going to work for me. You're going to have to change it for yourself. If you're doing 8 by 10, 10% should be good. If not, again, you're going to have to adjust that yourself. All right, now the initial sketch. Girls, you want to make sure that you draw their eyes perfectly, and you want to get as many of the eyelashes as possible. And you got to be careful to outline only the minimum, the bare minimum. With guys, you can get away with lining all sorts of stuff, you know, tracing the entire bottom of the nose here. We are not going to do that though. With girls, you only want to do the eyes, the eyebrows, the hair, the chin line, and maybe you want to do the middle of the lip, but not the edges. You want to do the edges with the lip color, or they will start looking like men. And that's bad. That's really bad. So I'm going to go ahead. From this point on, I'm going to do like a time lapse. Now in the eyes, with black you only want to outline the very edges of it, and you don't want to do the middle just yet. You'll do that later when we do the coloring. No matter what color they are, it's nice to be able to get a good outline. And you want to take the time to make sure these are just right, because the eyes are the window to the soul. And on the eyebrows, try not to be too heavy-handed with the eyebrows. Again, with girls, you want to do the bottom part, but you want to do the top part, sampling their color, and we'll do that in just a second. I'm going to go ahead and get a nice edge on all of this. If you goof up, don't be afraid to redraw it. This is the most important part. Oops. Like that. Now when you do the outline, again, make sure you do it as well as possible. This is the most important part of the whole drawing. The rest of your drawing will depend on how well you did this. And this I can't teach you either. And I'm not going to do the entire body here. Again, you can decide what you're going to do here. Okay, looking pretty good. Now, drawing the hair. This is probably one of the more difficult things. You want to make sure you draw the flow of the hair, but don't get too caught up in it because it's going to be a fairly base color. Alright, now, a great way to check your drawing and see if everything's turning out the way you want it to be is to go to the Layers palette and turn off the layer that you locked. And that will give you a good idea whether or not you've gotten enough. But this is looking pretty good. I need to fill in a few more details here. Whoops. And we need a little bit more of the hair detail. Again, you want to capture the essence of the hair, but not necessarily get too caught up in all the strands. You know, we'll work on that later actually. Make sure you get the flow of the hair. And that's not too hard. I mean, Scanner Darkly was traced, and that's basically what we're doing. But you want to make sure now let's check our work. It's looking pretty good. Now if you'll notice, that's why we constructed the brush, because it gives us these nice sharp edges. And we're getting close to what we want. Alright, now we want to make sure that we get the edge of the lip right. And so we are going to sample that. And this will be the last part of our initial drawing before we lock this part as well. Now, for this, you want to sample the edge of the lip. So we need to go over to our sampling tool. And if you click it, it doesn't quite sample right. You may have to hold down the Shift key to sample it, but it should work pretty well. I'm going to sample the darkest part of the lip. That's good. And before we go on, you want to make sure you switch so that the outline of the stroke is the thing that's being changed. And then you will outline the edge of the lip here. Alright, that looks pretty good. And we'll want to use our sampling tool again. We want to get the edge of the lip. Switch our colors. Choose the brush tool. And we will do the edge of the lip here. And you may have to resample to do one side or the other. In this case, we have a fairly strong light source, and so I'm going to make sure that I have a resampled edge. Alright, we're going to do the same for the edge of the lip over here.